So by the year 8000, the system of VH TAC 451 was populated. By 8052, this is AD, by the way. So this is what, 6,000 years from now, 6,040 years from now, 6,030 years from now. I can do math. The last colony ship from Tau Ceti arrived. We know that the Eve Gate collapsed in 861. So 9 years after the last colony ship from Tau Ceti arrived, the Eve Gate collapsed. What was it? Why can't I create a character with starting faction or Thucker, Angel, Mordu, and so on? That's an interesting question. One that CCP wants to know too. No, that's a thing that they have would like to fix if they can. Oh, because their home systems are in nullsec. That's a good point, I guess. Do the Thuckers have any stations to dock in, or is there just the nomadic fleet? Well, they now have a station near the Caravanserai, right? Because of the winners of the Liberation game. Also, doesn't Thucker Mix have their own stations? Having players starting at 0-0 is a bad idea. Well, having players have that choice may not necessarily be a bad idea by itself. All right, so in the year 17,453, so like 9,000 years after the collapse of the Eve Gate, the Rata Empire forms on the 7th planet. In the year 2998, so 3.5 centuries later, 3,500 years later, the Rata Empire falls. I think that's right. So all of this was, let's see, when is YC1? YC1 is 23,235? Yeah, 23,235. So like 1,000 years before the modern era, all of this is happening, right? So the Gurun Empire collapses in 21,834 on the 7th planet. And in 22,463, my bad. In 2998, so just before the year 21,000, the Rata Empire falls on the 7th planet. 600 years later, in 21,656, the Gurun Empire is founded on the 6th planet, named after the continent and ruled by Rouvenor. Okay. Then in 21,714, Duel das Rouvenor III establishes the Age of Rouvenor calendar. This is the Galentian calendar. And then in 21,834, 120 years later, the Gurun Empire collapses. Now, the collapse of the Gurun Empire. Hold on. History of the ethnic Gallente. The history of the Gurun Empire is wild, by the way. Let me see. The ethnic Gallente originate from the 6th planet of the Luminaire system, a world in which the ancestors called many different names, but today is officially named Gallente Prime. Most modern archaeologists believe the first settlers to Galantia hailed from the system known as Tau Ceti. The settlers found a natural habitable planet with a healthy level of biodiversity and a generally comfortable climate, conditions so favorable that they did not undertake terraforming or climate control effects. Some find it ironic that the beneficial environment that later helped civilization recover and flourish may have been a key factor in the pre-collapse settlers leaving their little archaeological evidence. The history of the ethnic Gallente covers two distinct epochs, before spaceflight and the ascendancy of the Federation. Their history and culture were contemporaneous. Ha-ha! I can stop throwing in the extra syllable. With the history of the Gallentia, of Gallentia. However, over the past 500 years, as the ethnic Gallente has settled hundreds of different worlds and mingled with countless different peoples, their continuing story has become part of the Federation history. All right. Age of the Ancients. There are no clear set date, though archaeologists discovered and reconstructed the ruins of the planet ancient settlements. Only a few of these ruins hint to a pre-collapse society. The time before the rise of the Garon Empire is known as the Age of the Ancients, with several people and civilizations lived either separately or one another in complete isolation, a state of perpetual conflict. Blah 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 blah. Monarchs and republics. There are some empires. Back and forth social climate of the Gallente Prime meant that the cycles of nations and empires rising and falling continued for centuries after the reemergence of civilization on the planet. Eventually, cohesive political and technological development came from the continent of Garun, whose temperate and comfortable climate established a specific nation in particular to bring about the influential stability that would permeate the course of the Gallente history for the generations to come. Thus enters the Age of Rouvenor.